Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare
How
Krishna.
are you doing?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Puna
Krishna.
Mataji. How are you?
I
Hare Krishna,
am
Ram
good.
Priya
How are
Prabhu.
you?
Good, very good. Hare Krishna. Nandi Mukhi, Hare
How's your
Krishna.
family?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Family is great. Thank you. You are all my family.
Oh, thank you so much. We are a Krishna family, right?
Yes, of course.
Yes.
And I see Shilpi and I see Malvika.
Hare Krishna, Papa.
Shilpi, how are you?
Very good, very good.
That's good. And
आप हम
Malvika?
सबके पापा हैं, right?
She's my daughter, yeah.
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
I see Malvika, but I don't see her really, but kind of see her. And is that Don Lee who's joined us? Who has signed as Mary?
Yes, Prabhuji, she is from Vancouver. Last time, you
Sorry?
remember? She's from Vancouver.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
She is from Vancouver.
No, I know that.
Okay.
I'm just asking who was signed in as Mary because
I don't know.
Hare Krishna Mary, can you speak, please? Maybe she's not there.
Hare Krishna. I was the one last week that told you that you remind me of the Leela with the jewels in the basket.
Yes, no, oh, okay, got it. Oh,
Yeah, that's me. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Welcome. And I see Melanie here as well. Hare Krishna, Melanie.
Hi, Krishna Prabhu. How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Great, thank you.
That's great. Hare Krishna, Rani.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Twinkle. How are you?
Very good. How are you?
Wonderful. And I see Rani
Hare
there as well.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Rani. How are
Krishna.
you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good, very good. Thanks. Good to see you all. And well, the warm weather is gone from Toronto, but still
Mataji,
quite.
class start.
Huh?
Yes, Mataji. Class start, Mataji. Oh, thank you, Mataji. Sure, Mataji. You can come. Hare Krishna.
Okay, let's get started. I'm going to share the screen with the Pranami mantra and then take it from there. Does everyone say it? Okay. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So welcome again. I'm going to stop sharing and ask if anybody has any questions from last week. Questions or takeaways, anything you remember that you wish to bring up? Anyone? No? Okay. What about takeaways? What do you remember from last week?
I actually have one question.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I have a note here where it says Krishna said that those who do not worship God according to the scripture regulations have three kinds of faith: goodness, passion, ignorance. So people who does that mean that if you were perfectly following the scriptures then you're not in goodness, passion, or ignorance, right? That's how.
Well, basically what he's saying is that the devotees, when they are performing devotional service, they're not under any of the three modes of material nature.
So if you
Okay.
were a pure devotee, so
Then
like,
you-
I don't know, let's say you were a guru, then that means that you wouldn't be under any of them?
Correct. That's correct. That means have transcended the modes of material nature. So actually, if you recall the 14th chapter, we discussed a verse which said that if we are, for those of us who are performing pure devotional service, we transcend the three modes of material nature and come to a stage called Brahma Bhuta. So, which means above all the modes of material nature. So, exactly right. Pure devotional service will get us out of that. And that's why pure devotees are able to get out of the material world. Because as long as you are under the control of modes of material nature, you cannot get out. It's like remember that we talked about the ropes, gunas being the ropes, we're tied with those ropes. Can't get out. The only way is to perform pure devotional service, surrender to Lord Krishna, who will take us out. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, no, it does. It kind of ties together like so many things. Because it just because when we say like a devotee is not under, it's like if you're a devotee like me, where you're like a flawed devotee.
Right, we all flawed.
And-
We're all flawed. So that's correct.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Yeah, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, last week,
बिना बहुत zoom होगा तभी तो करोगे ना.
four things like sacrifice, austerity.
Prabhu, you're coming very soft. Can you speak a little louder?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Is it audible?
Yeah, now it's okay.
Okay. Yeah, last week you were mentioning about four important, four things like food, sacrifice, austerity, and charity, right?
In different modes, yeah.
Yeah. When it comes to the food, I think you also mentioned like the food which is prepared within the 3 hours is always good to consume. Is always good to have,
Yes.
right? So it would also mean, if it is okay more than 3 hours, the food is not so good to consume. That means, is it okay? Is it okay to throw it?
So what we had also said was that does not apply to prasadam. Once it has been offered to Lord Krishna, then it's sanctified already. Now the modes of material nature do not affect this. So even if it is 5 days old, you can eat it. But a food that has not been offered should be thrown away, yes.
Okay. But food, usually we will think like food should not be wasted, right?
Yeah, best is we can find a cow, or some other decent animal to feed. But in Canada, that's a problem. In India, that's what people do. They feed a cow.
Yeah.
But in Canada, it's an issue. So yeah, it's an issue. And that's why we should be careful about how much we cook. Every once in a while, it will go wrong, no question. But we should try and finish whatever we cook when it's still fresh. Yeah. But like I said, if it's offered, that doesn't apply. So that's the other thing. Just offer it, then you're safe.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
Sure. Thank you.
Sure. Anybody else? Okay, then we'll move on to this week, which is chapter 18.
Yeah.
And so basically, chapter 18 is essentially a supplementary summary of the Bhagavad Gita. Actually, Bhagavad Gita is finished last week in 17 chapters. But Krishna is continuing to be a good presenter, and he is summarizing all that he has already presented. So remember, in the beginning, we said that in the first chapter, he simply listens to understand what the issue is, essentially what his audience is. Then second chapter, he says, this is what I'm going to tell you. Then third through 17, he tells him. Now in 18, he's again saying, okay, just remember, this is what I told you. He's summarizing everything. But interestingly, chapter 18 starts with Arjuna wanting to make sure he understands the difference between renounced order of life, or what we call sannyas, and renunciation, Sanskrit word for which is tyag. And Krishna explains that giving up activities, so that's the key word, giving up activities that are based on material desires. So in other words, all karmi activities. Like such as, for example, wanting a good son or promotion to heavenly planet or win the lottery or whatever, is called renounced order of life or sannyas. So giving up those kind of activities is called sannyas or renounced order. But giving up the results of all activities is called renunciation or tyag. So in sannyas or renounced order of life, you're giving up activities. In renunciation or tyag, you're giving up the results of the activities. Okay, and as we discussed in other chapters before, the performance of activities for material results must be given up. Otherwise, what happens? Anybody? What happens if you don't give it up?
You come back here.
Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
you got it. You get the karmas and you're entangled in the material world and you come back.
Yep.
Whereas the activities leading to spiritual advancement must not be given up. Why? Because they purify our heart and help us advance in Krishna consciousness. Right? So activities for materialism must be given up because they entangle you, but activities for Krishna consciousness must be done because they help us get out. So having understood that, I don't know if you're asking this question, but I asked myself, why is Arjun asking this question now? I mean, we're almost done. He wants to know the difference between renounced order and renunciation. So it's like on the surface, it might appear that it's just a theoretical question, there's some time left, Arjun wants to ask that. And it has nothing to do with our day-to-day life. But then I started thinking about this and I said, wait a minute. Actually, and I don't know if this is your experience, but this is my experience, that one of the most frequently asked questions that seems to pop up every now and then, actually again and again, is that people ask if working in this world attracts karmic reaction. And as we just said, entangles us in this material world, which is full of misery and complexity. Is it not safer that we just give up work altogether? How many of you have had somebody ask you that question, or have you, it's popped up in your head itself? Anyone? Or is it just me?
Yeah. No, I've definitely heard it.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, it's like people. Another question is totally unrelated. Another question people have asked me many times is if while chanting we do so many offenses, is it better to not chant and therefore you don't have offenses? Right? And of course the answer is no, it's better to chant while doing offenses because one day you'll purify yourself. But anyway, so the point is that, it occurred to me that no, it's a very valid question because people keep asking this. So I don't know how many of you remember back in chapter 3, we had said that we cannot simply give up work or renounce work because we must work just to survive.
Yeah.
And besides, it is the nature of the soul, which is like our nature, is to be active. We cannot be idle, not doing anything. Sure, it's possible that we are doing some work that's not of our choice. We don't want to do it, we don't like doing it, but we're doing it because of situation or we won't have anything to eat if we don't do this. So even those of us who are doing that, we can find satisfaction by working in a spirit of detachment. So what is detachment? Anybody wants to help me? What is detachment?
Would that be like detachment from material things?
Right. So basically, you're saying that I'm going to give up the results of my work. That is detachment. Because you're not saying I'll give up work. That's not detachment. That's actually being lazy. But saying that I'm going to give up the results of my work, that's detachment. So in other words, I'm working, I'm doing whatever, but whether it's successful or not, it doesn't matter. Whether I get no salary raise or this much salary raise or a big promotion, it doesn't matter. I do work for the sake of working. That's detachment. So Krishna is basically saying that the activity is not bad per se. As a matter of fact, he keeps saying that works of sacrifice, charity, and penance should never be given up because they purify us and they bring us long-term happiness. How? They give us the spiritual freedom. In other words, they're going to get us out of the material world. And he keeps on emphasizing again and again, including in this chapter, that work should be performed as a matter of duty without expectation of results, which is attachment. So perform your duty without expecting the result, and that's detachment.
That's a quick question.
Sure.
So he uses those words a lot, charity, sacrifice, and penance, right?
Yes.
But what is the 2020 definition of those three things? Like, what does that mean for us to do?
Yes, very good question. Excellent question.
Okay.
So actually, the general definition of sacrifice is any work that is done for the satisfaction of Lord Krishna. So that's why we have one of the best sacrifices we make is called japa, Harinam Kirtan. It's an activity that pleases Krishna. That's why we call it Sankirtan Yajna. Yajna means sacrifice. Right? So any work done for the satisfaction of Krishna is sacrifice. Charity is when we give something that we have to somebody else. But if you remember, we talked about charity in mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. And hopefully we do charity in mode of goodness, which means with due consideration of time, place, and person, without expecting name and fame for ourselves, at a proper time, in a proper place. Those were the things we said are the charity in mode of goodness, and we should do that. Okay, and then penance. Penance is voluntary inconvenience to our body. Voluntary inconvenience to our body. So, for example, you do a fast. That is inconvenient. I mean, we could be eating this, that, and that, and we're not, right? Or waking up early, or spending the 2 hours chanting when we could be watching TV. I mean, those are, inconvenient. Let's face it, especially in 2020, as you said, they are inconvenient, right? Not watching WhatsApp, not reading WhatsApp, or not being on the internet, and all those kind of things, right? But as long as penance is done for the satisfaction of the Lord, it's a sacrifice. Whereas penance done for political purposes, for example, I'm going to fast till death unless you give me this, that's mode of ignorance. That's not recommended. Okay? Did I answer your question?
Oh, that's perfect, because he keeps repeating those words over and over again.
Oh,
And
yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
I don't know what those means in this practical context.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay. So he further adds that any work that helps one discharge devotional service. Devotional service always to the Lord. That work should be accepted. So basically any work for devotional service should be accepted. So don't be lazy in that. And Krishna also says that any work or all work meant for human welfare should never be given up. However, welfare is defined kind of nicely by Krishna. It's not just giving, money to the hungry so he can buy a hamburger. That's not real welfare. But it's not always just spiritual. So, for example, Prabhupada gives actually an example that he says that it's okay for a sannyasi to perform a marriage ceremony for 2 other people who are in lower stages of life, meaning they're not sannyasis, they are householders. But it's not okay for himself to get married because the work should be done without a desire to enjoy the results. Okay, does it tie together now? He's saying, don't do it for your satisfaction to enjoy the results yourself, because that is karmi activity. It entangles you. Okay, but it doesn't mean that you should not allow other people to get married. But when you get them married, you're not attached. Well, hopefully you're not. Okay. However, he does acknowledge that it's easy for Krishna to say that be detached from the results. But it's not so easy for us. I mean, we can talk Bhagavad Gita all we want. 24/7 we can do it. But still, it's just like one of those things. We keep saying we are soul, not this body. But how many of us actually act as if we are soul, not this body? The same thing. It's easier said than done that you should be detached from the results. But what's the reason for that? The reason is our false ego. We still don't really think we're the soul. We keep thinking we're this body. And when we perform any activity, we're working under that false ego. So under that false ego, we start thinking we are the enjoyer, we're the controller, and the detachment becomes almost impossible when we have that, the tendency to enjoy, tendency to control. So now Krishna says something very interesting. He says, listen, just because you're not getting this point, just because you can't simply accept and act accordingly, like being detached, let me tell you something else that you may not have thought of. And I'll be honest with you, first time I read it, I said, oh, I never thought of this. So I'm going to tell you what it is, and then you tell me whether you had thought of this. Krishna says that there are actually 5 causes which brings success to any activity. In other words, any successful activity requires these 5 things to be favorable. What are the 5 things? First is, of course, us, the individual soul. Second is the body. Without body, you cannot do any activity. The senses, the endeavor. Without endeavor, you can't do anything. And ultimately, the super soul. Yes, Mataji, thank you. Super soul, the sanction of the super soul. So let me repeat. The soul, the body, the senses, the endeavor, and the super soul. Now, I'm going to pause here, and I want to make sure everybody got this, because this is one of the very fundamental points of Bhagavad Gita, that we are not the cause of an activity. We're not the doers. There are 5 things. We're just one of them. We're just one of the 5. So at best, you can say 20% contribution. And even that is not really true. But that's the best that you can say. So are you good with that? What are the 5 things? Somebody repeat it for me.
The body,
Yeah.
the soul,
Uh-huh.
myself,
Yeah.
super soul, the
Yes.
end, senses,
Yes.
and endeavor.
Very good. Very good. Excellent. So those are the 5 things that have to come together.
Yes, to accomplish the goal.
It's like, the 4 things are there, but you don't make any endeavor. You say, I don't feel like it. I'm going to stay in bed. Not much is going to happen. Or you say, you know what? Today I feel like flying. But I don't mean on an airplane. Just on my own, with my body, nothing else. No mechanical instrument. Can we do that? No. Why is that? Because we're not sanctioned by the super soul to do that. But a bird can, no issue, right? So bird is sanctioned to fly. We the humans are not. So that's how the 5 things go together. Okay, is that clear?
Yep.
Okay. So if you're agreeing with that, then at best we have a 20% contribution, which means we should never have an overvalued estimation of ourselves. Like, let's not start taking us too seriously, that we are somebody, we're something. Nor should we claim to be totally and solely responsible for our so-called achievements. Are you with me? If we are agreeing, it's all 5 things that contribute towards our success. At best, we're doing 20%. And if you really believe that, then it's hard to overestimate, overvalue, I should say, overvalue our contribution. And therefore cannot say, I'm totally responsible and solely responsible for my achievements. No, we had a lot of help. But if we can understand that, then it would be easier to not be attached to the results and offer the results to Krishna. So what that means is that if we can work in a spirit of detachment and we can offer the results of our work to Krishna, then we can function in this world and at the same time remain completely aloof, which means detached. Are you with me? Yes, no? Yes, yes?
Yes.
Okay, so if you're agreeing, then I'm going to take the liberty of declaring all of you to be detached and completely aloof from this world. Okay? It's been declared, signed, and delivered. You're all detached and aloof from this world. Did you know that? Is this a revelation or did you already know that? Okay. All right. By the way, don't take me too seriously. I was just kidding. Okay. All right. So any questions? I'm going to pause for a second. Any questions?
I do have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
It relates back to what we were discussing last week. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it was, we illustrated the example of Rupa Goswami and how he left 50% to family and the rest. Do you remember this?
Mm-hmm.
And then I believe you said that to give to someone who may use it for material purposes would draw you, like keep you into the material world. But if we were to give that out of love, in goodness, and detach from the results, surrendering the results to Krishna, then why would something like that keep us in the material world?
Very good question. So there is something called laws of karma. Karmas can be individual, they can be shared, and they can be group karmas. So let me give you an example. Suppose you buy a leather sofa for your home. Do you think you'll get any karmas from that? I see Shilpi and Astha nodding.
Yes, we
Okay,
do.
tell me why. Okay, tell me why.
Most of the leather they make is from killing
Because
animals, like some sort of killing is
Well,
involved.
typically a cow,
Confidence, yeah.
but you didn't kill the cow.
But we get a part of the karma who did it because we were a part of activity. We are
Right.
using that product.
If nobody ever bought a sofa, leather sofa, they won't kill the animal. Right?
Yeah.
So not only the person who kills the cow, the person who skins the cow, the person who takes the cow hide, turns into leather, the person who cuts it, person who store it in the warehouse, the distributor who distributes to the retailer who sells it, salesman who sells it, the person who buys it, and then everybody who sits on the sofa forever shares in that karma of killing that cow. So when you give money to somebody, detached or not, you're going to share that karma if he misuses that money. Whether you give it out of love or out of grudge, it doesn't matter. You're the source of that money, and therefore you will be entangled. That is not contradicting what we were saying before. Before we were talking about you entangling yourself from your karmas. Now we're talking about you entangling yourself from somebody else's karmas. Okay, is this distinction clear?
Yes, somewhat, but I'm just thinking of an example that relates to what we were talking about right now. And the only thing that comes to mind is, say you go to a lawyer, you're making out a will, for example. Well, the lawyer has to get paid and they could misuse the money, but you still have to make out the will. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So, for example, this is where the karma theory becomes very, very complex because there's so many permutations and combinations. So, for example, you gave the example of the lawyer, or you could be working. So, let me give you an example, like something really, remote connection. I used to work for IBM before I retired. Now you say, okay, so IBM is not into leather. IBM is not into, other sinful activities. They're an IT company, services company. But when they do business with companies who are doing some sinful activities, and they make payments to IBM, who in turn makes a payment to me in the form of salary, then I'm sharing some of that karma. So this is why it's so difficult to get out of this material world. This is why we've been here since time immemorial. The only way is to burn all those karmas through the process of devotional service. That's the problem. It's almost scary, but it also should be an incentive to say, I want to get serious about my devotional service. Right? That's the only way. That's the only hope.
So are you saying that in the instance of paying the lawyer, that's something that you can't help? And so you just hope that your devotional service will burn that off?
Well, so it's not hope. If you perform devotional service, it's guaranteed. In Brahma Samhita, it says, Karma nidhati pintuja bhakta bhajam. That's guaranteed. So yeah, I'm saying, therefore, it's not a choice. We have to perform devotional service.
Yes, but I guess where I get confused is, and I 100% believe that devotional service does burn that off. Mm-hmm. But why, if you have to pay the lawyer, and they misuse the money that's given, but you have to pay them, that if I'm understanding you correctly, gets burnt off by your devotional service. But giving to the family member or whoever else you would give to does not. Is that because...
No, hold on. I did not say that if you give money to your family members and they misuse it, that you won't get karma. I didn't say that. You will get the karma. Maybe that was your confusion.
Yeah, yes, and that's where I'm confused.
No. So it's family member or not. It's the same thing.
Right, but in the instance of the lawyer, you can't help that because you must pay them. The family member, you would not have to give them the money.
True,
So that is
true.
your prerogative.
So in
But
one case,
but in both instances, does your devotional service burn all that off?
yes, devotional service burns off all karmas regardless of how they were accumulated.
So are you saying it is okay to give to the family member or not? You see, that's where I get confused.
Okay, so there's so many different perspectives. If you're talking from the perspective of karmas, if your family members are devotees, you're safe.
But if they're not?
If they're not, then you're not safe.
Okay.
You may be giving it out of love, which is probably the case, but you're not safe. You're going to accumulate karmas from their karmas.
Okay, and but in devotional service, I would imagine burns that off.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That devotional service will burn off any kind of karmas, wherever, however it came. So that's
so you can give to them, and your devotional service will burn it off.
Yes, you can. Yes.
Okay, that's where I misunderstood you last week.
Okay.
I thought you couldn't give it to them because devotional service or not, you would be held back.
Well, no. So understand. No. So that's definitely the case that devotional service will burn it. There's no question about that. The problem is that sometimes our devotional service is not strong enough, right? So the effect is not as much as you would want. So it's not that, I casually chant every once in a while, I'm doing devotional service, therefore my karma will be burnt. It doesn't work that way. It needs to be pure devotional service. It needs to be sincere devotional service. So a lot of us are not doing that. Right? So I mean, we can't just say, no worries, I'll do all this, bad things, and then I'll just go chant around and it'll be fine. As a matter of fact, it makes it worse. There's another offense against the holy name, which says, if you perform sinful activities on the strength of chanting, that's a big offense. So, I mean, it's not that simple. It's not that straightforward. That's basically what I'm trying to say. So I'm not surprised you're confused, but just understand, generally speaking, when you are involved in some kind of a transaction of money, which is misused, you share the karmas. If you're doing pure devotional service, it doesn't matter what karma we're talking about, how it was accumulated, how long ago it was accumulated, it all gets burned. So, I mean, if you keep it simple, then that's basically what the statement is. Does that help?
I must admit, I am still a bit confused.
Okay, then let's talk offline.
It does in theory, but
let's talk offline because I think it's a long discussion then.
Yeah.
So if you, do you have my number? I can send you my number.
Okay.
Or I can right now, I can tell you my number and give me a call tomorrow or whenever you like.
Okay, I can take it down.
416.
Yes.
524.
Yes.
4493.
And 4493.
Correct.
And when is the best time to reach you?
If you call me tomorrow, sometime between 2 and 5 p.m. Toronto time.
Okay.
That would be 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. your time.
Okay, thank you so much.
So you're very welcome. Okay, all right. Okay. So the dilemma is that we are expected to be detached or unattached or aloof, whatever what you use. But we are conditioned and influenced by the modes of material nature, which, as we have said many times, implicates us in the material world. So what to do? So Krishna says, you know what? Let me talk about your nature. And he says there are Actually, I should say differently. He introduces the concept of varnashram. And he says there are 4 divisions of people based on their modes of material nature. The first one is called the Brahmana. Second is called Kshatriya. Third is called Vaishya. And fourth is called Shudra. So basically, Brahman is the intelligent class. Kshatriya is the martial class, the administration and basically security and all those kind of things. Vaishya, the business class, and Shudra, the labor class. And he says, don't artificially imitate another man's duty, but embrace what is natural and inborn to you. So he says, it doesn't matter whether your father was Brahmin. What is your nature? It could be Kshatriya. Then you are a Kshatriya. Just because you're born of a Brahmin doesn't make you Brahmin. It's like somebody says, oh, my dad is a big doctor, therefore I'm a big doctor, although I never go to school. It doesn't work that way. So same thing. What is your nature? And you are classified according to your nature. And then what happens is that if we engaged in activities that are aligned or according to our nature, and we work in a spirit of Krishna consciousness, then we purify ourselves of the material propensities, and then we can live a happy and peaceful life. So basically, what's the common expression? Act yourself. I think that's the expression. Act yourself, be natural, be yourself, something like that. So whoever you are, it doesn't matter. Act like that.
Question about that one. That's a big verse that I've always wondered about, right? Like,
okay.
Perform your duty imperfectly rather than accept another person's duty and perform it perfectly, right?
Yes,
so
yes.
like, I think back in Krishna's day, I'm trying to do the 2020 version of this. Back in Krishna's day, like, people were Kshatriyas and they were soldiers and they knew kind of what their duty was. But like now, what do you, like, how are you supposed to know what your duty is, you know?
Yeah, very good question.
Yeah.
So actually, there is a very famous verse in Srimad Bhagavatam, which says, Kalau Shudra Sambhava, which means in Kali Yuga, definitely 2020, everyone is born a Shudra. And we pretend to be somebody else. So your political leaders, they are Shudras. Even the priests, a lot of them are Shudras. Because what is the definition of Shudra? A Shudra gets paid for serving other people. That's a Shudra. And how many people do you know that are not getting paid to serve somebody else? It's not the Prime Minister. It's not the President. It's not the CEO of a company. Right? It's not the soldiers. They're getting paid too. Right? So they may be doing some work of another so-called caste or whatever. But inherently, anybody who's working for somebody else for pay is a Shudra. Now, because nothing in 2020 is pure, there's a combination. There's an element of Kshatriya, there's an element of Brahmin, there's an element of Vaishya, and so on and so forth. And some people have more of one than the other. So that's why you still have business community, you still have the soldiers and the army and all those kind of things. And you still have the administrators, I should say, and you still have the Brahmins. But how many Brahmins do you know who are really knowledgeable in the scriptures, who can really pronounce the mantras properly? They're all just doing it for money. So by nature, they're Shudras, but they're acting like Brahmins. And that's the problem in 2020. So yes, you're right. Well, it was easy for Krishna to say because the classification and the division was very clear. Now, like anything else, all the lines are blurred. So it's very difficult to say who is who. But generally speaking, it is said In Kali Yuga, everybody is a Shudra. Now, does that answer your question, Asta?
So, so when we're supposed to do our duty and we're performing our job imperfectly, I mean, are we just being imperfect Shudras then? Like we're just...
Yeah, that's the unfortunate part. We're not even pure Shudras.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
Interesting.
I hope I'm not depressing anybody here, but we
No.
can't
It's
even
real
be good
though, yeah.
Shudras in 2020.
That makes sense.
Is pay and donations the same thing?
No, it's not. But we can't play tricks like we play against the CRA, which says, oh, this is a contractor. Oh, no, this is being paid honorarium, this and that. I mean, we're not talking about playing games. We're talking about, doing the honest thing and then see what it is. So I think that's where you were going, Melanie, no?
Yeah, I was thinking about people who are renounced.
Oh, no, sorry. I'm sorry. Are you talking about sannyasis who visit?
Yeah, like when you're a senior and then they...
Yeah, so if, and again, that's if they're collecting it, for example, for real serious devotional purposes, like to build a temple, they're not taking it for themselves, then it's okay. But if they're going to spend that money on themselves, then that's no different from payment. So a lot of sannyasis come visit, they collect funds for spreading Krishna consciousness. A lot of times building a temple or whatever. Then it's okay. But if they're going to use it for themselves, and there have been cases, some sannyasis have been found to have a big bank account, right? For themselves, some sannyasis have been found to have a big house. Outside of ISKCON is even worse. So yeah, then that's not getting paid. So it depends upon the purpose for
Yeah,
which
that's
you're
what I was
collecting.
thinking of. That makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Now, basically, we should always remember that whatever activities we're performing, they should ultimately be aimed at only one thing, and that is, how do I achieve love of God? And the highest realization in any kind of transcendental knowledge is how to reestablish our eternal loving relationship with Krishna. That's the highest. If you can figure out how to reestablish that relationship, then we got it all. That's the highest realization. And that's the purest activity. However, before we can reestablish this relationship, we must first understand who Krishna is. That should be obvious, right? How can you establish a relationship with somebody whom you do not understand, right? So is there anybody here who has worked in sales environment of any industry or marketing? Oh, Asta, I know you're in marketing, right? Anybody else in sales or marketing?
Yes.
No? Oh, okay. Well, Shilpi, you are big time. And sorry, Melanie, you are too as well?
Yeah, consult.
Okay, all right. So one of the first things we are taught is before you try to make a sale, before you put a marketing campaign together for somebody, you must understand who they are and what their needs are. And then you establish a relationship with them. Because without those two things, you cannot. You'll be saying and doing all the wrong things. It's like Mary Antoinette. What did she say famously? Anybody? Let them eat cake. Nobody heard that? What world do you people live in?
was a really long time ago.
Seriously? Oh, okay, that's true. Okay, good
Sorry,
one.
millennials.
Good one. Touche. No, touche. So basically, she was the queen, and there was famine. People were dying. So somebody told her that they're dying because they have no bread. They can't get bread. And she said, or supposedly, let them eat cake then. She didn't understand they don't have bread because they have no money, they have no jobs. You can't buy bread, how can you buy cake? So that's the point. That's the point. You have to understand the other person with whom you want to establish a relationship. So therefore, same thing, if we want to reestablish our relationship, then we must understand who Krishna is. I mean, we lost the relationship in the first place because we didn't understand Krishna. So unless we develop that understanding of Krishna, who is he, what does he want, what does he like, then we cannot establish that. So therefore, we must establish that relationship first. But then the question is, okay, how do we understand Krishna? Sorry, somebody said something? So Krishna says that one can understand me as I am, which is the main thing. Understand me as I am only by devotional service under the guidance of a pure devotee, which is a spiritual master. He says, no one can understand me by mental speculation or by scholarship. You cannot be a big scholar. Say, now I know all the Vedas by heart, I memorize all the verses from this book and that book. No, cannot do that. Nor can he be understood by non-devotees. In 10th canto Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Brahma says that one may be smart enough to count the number of dust particles on earth or number of snowflakes falling from the sky. But that person still cannot understand Krishna by speculation. So therefore, the only way to understand Krishna is through the performance of devotional service. And Krishna says, once you understand me, you're in full consciousness of me, you can enter my kingdom. Come to Goloka Vrindavan, I'm waiting for you. But until then, forget it. Go up and down, up and down, up and down in the material world. So what happens? When we hear about Krishna, automatically our material contamination, which is what? Things like lust and greed, sense enjoyment, it just disappears. And we get to a stage that we were talking about earlier in the class, Brahma Bhuta stage, which is transcending the modes of material nature. And as lust and desires disappear from the heart of a devotee, the devotee becomes more attached to the service of the Lord, and that attachment frees him from material contamination. So attachment to the Lord frees him of the material contamination, which gives the detachment from material things. So we don't have to try and detach ourselves from material things. We just have to try to attach ourselves to Krishna by understanding him through the process of devotional service. And a devotee who's engaged 100% in Krishna consciousness 24/7, the Lord is very kind. And he says, hey, come on in. Here's the door. Come to Goloka. Spend time with me. Serve me. That's all it takes. So along the same lines, he tells Arjun, just depend upon me. Depend upon me in all activities and always work under my protection. And in such
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Something you just said, and you've said it a lot, and I've always wondered. When you say serve Krishna in Godhead, what does serving mean in that case?
There are 9 ways we can serve Krishna.
When we're in Godhead?
That's one of them. So remember the verse Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam? Hearing, chanting, remembering, serving his lotus feet, which includes walking to the temple, circumambulating the temple, etc. Even includes cooking and all that, cleaning the temple, all those things, right? Offering prayers, performing arti, being his servant, and making complete surrender of all our desires to him. In other words, having no desire other than his own desires. So those are 9 ways we could serve.
When we're in the material world. So I guess what I don't understand though is when we're in the spiritual world, what does serving mean?
Well, the spiritual world is a direct service. So you can actually feed Krishna. Actually feed Krishna. You can sing his glories. You can praise him. You can massage his lotus feet. Literally massage lotus feet. So everything we do here, you can do there. It's just that now they have personal contact, as opposed to personal contact through the deities, which is still personal contact. Because deities are not different from Krishna.
Thanks for explaining that.
Okay. Any other questions? I hope today is not very complex. So just emphasizing that same point again and again. Detachment and devotion service. Okay. Okay. So what happens when we are acting in Krishna consciousness? We don't consider ourselves to be the master of the world. Rather, we think ourselves the servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord, and we are happy to work under his direction. In other words, act only on the order of Krishna, who is our master, without worrying about profit and loss. Just do our duty faithfully according to what the Lord wants. No more using our intelligence independently and thinking we know better than Krishna. So when we become a consultant to Krishna and say, you know what I think you should do? You should let me win this lottery and get my son married and give me one more girlfriend, one is not enough, and on and on and on. Right? That's telling Krishna, I am more intelligent than you. Telling Krishna, I know better what's good for me. Don't do that. Just follow Krishna's instructions. So then the question comes, well, how do I know what Krishna is telling me? Well, that comes through scriptures and through the Guru. So basically, there should be only one goal in our life, which is I'm going to act in Krishna consciousness just to satisfy Krishna. And our attitude should be, whatever duty I have been given, I will discharge it for Krishna, for Krishna's satisfaction. And just think about this. When we act in that way, we're naturally thinking about Krishna all the time. And that's perfect Krishna consciousness. Now, it doesn't mean that you can do something whimsically and offer the results to Krishna and call it devotional service. No, it doesn't work that way. That's the whole point. We should and must act according to the order of Krishna. And as I said, you know the order of Krishna through your spiritual master who's in the disciplic succession, or through the scriptures which are bona fide. So therefore, a spiritual master's order should be taken as the prime duty of our life. They say our spiritual master's order is our life and soul. Prabhupada said that so often. I'm successful because of what my spiritual master asked me to do. I'm doing only what my spiritual master asked me to do. So many times he said that. Okay. Any questions? Okay. Now, I love this verse. There are two verses, 1857 and 58. So what's happening? Krishna is assuring Arjuna. He's saying, if you become conscious of me, Arjun, if you become conscious of me, then you will pass over all the obstacles of conditioned life by my grace. But by my grace. What that means is that a person in full Krishna consciousness doesn't need to be unduly anxious about executing his day-to-day activities or duties. Like Krishna will take care of it. There's a very wonderful verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita. It says, and I'm going to say it in Bengali and then I translate this. Shraddha sabde vishwas, sudrah nischay, Krishna bhakti kaile sarva karma krit hoy. When you have this firm faith in Krishna, it means that I know, I believe fully, unflinching faith that if I serve Krishna, then everything else will get taken care of. Everything else will get done. All I have to do is have my firm faith in Krishna. All I have to do is work for Krishna. Everything else will get taken care of. That's the faith we're talking about. That's the faith Krishna is saying. If you have that, I will personally remove all obstacles. Think Prahlad Maharaj. His father tried to kill him in so many ways, but every time there was Krishna saving him. He was thrown from the top of a mountain with a big stone attached to his body into the ocean. And Krishna came in his arms, picked him up in his arms. He was thrown in a well full of snakes and scorpions. And Krishna removed all the poison from those animals. Prahlad was put in a fire with somebody who had the benediction of not ever burning in fire. And Krishna removed the benediction, and that person was burned, and Prahlad was fine. On and on, so many examples. Krishna is saying, I'm guaranteeing you, I will take care of you. I'll remove the obstacles if you're in full Krishna consciousness. Now, you and I can understand that, but non-devotees cannot understand this great freedom that we, the devotees, have from all anxieties. Anxieties of all forms or any form. Lord Krishna says, I will be your best, most intimate friend. I look after all your comfort. All you have to do is be conscious of me all the time. Non-devotees don't know what should be done, what should not be done. But a devotee is free to act. He says, whatever I need to do will be, I will be prompted by Krishna from within, the super soul. And whatever I want to do will be confirmed by my spiritual master. Who, me worry? I'm not worried. What anxiety? There's no anxiety. So as a result, devotees look so happy. Regardless of the issues that are there, they're so happy because they're dependent upon Krishna. Krishna will take care of it. It's like a 2-year-old child. No worry in the world. Parents are there. They'll feed me when I'm hungry. They'll give me water when I'm thirsty. They'll clothe me when I'm cold. They'll take the clothes out when I'm hot. If I'm running into a danger, they'll hold me. They'll pick me up. If I'm crying, they'll pick me up. Why do I worry? Same thing. Let us all become 2-year-olds. Krishna as a father and mother. There will be no worries in our life. Krishna is guaranteeing it. That's the thing. He's guaranteeing it. On the other hand, Krishna also warns Arjuna. He says, but if you don't act according to my direction, then you will be acting through your false ego.
And you're lost.
You'll be making your own decisions, right? Then you will be lost, you'll be misdirected, because you will be compelled to act in a certain way by your modes of material nature. That's what we discussed earlier, a couple of weeks ago. In this case, I mean, we know Arjun did not wish to fight because he thought he was the doer. He was going to be the killer. He was going to be the master of his actions and responsible for the results. All that's false ego. Arjun forgot. He is not the supreme knower. He doesn't know the future. And his decision to fight or not to fight was confined to his limited discretion. And he had forgotten Krishna was instructing him to fight. So let me ask you, how many of us have done that more than once? When we think we know best, we make our own decisions. We do something contrary to what Krishna wants us to do. Any volunteers for that? I know I raised my hand many times.
All the time.
Every time.
Yeah, every time maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
Every time. So that's our problem. A majority of our issues are because we're trying to make decisions based on our very limited intelligence and very limited knowledge. We don't know the future, cannot see the future, and we don't control anything. Nothing, really nothing. If that was not the case, nobody's children will be drug addicts. Nobody's children will be in the prison. Everybody's child would be a multimillionaire or a pure devotee. Right? But it's not in control, in our control. So Krishna is saying, just know, it's not in control. So Krishna reminds Arjuna that, look, no individual is all in all. They say, but don't worry. I, as Krishna, as Super Soul, are sitting in your heart and everybody's heart. And I'm directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as if on a machine, which is this body made of material energy. So we're wandering up and down in different species, animal, bird, aquatics, human, non-human, etc., etc. And this planet to that planet to that planet, sometimes higher planets, sometimes lower planets. We're doing all this. But every time we have a machine we're sitting in, that's not body. That's the material energy. I said, I'm directing your activities. All you have to do is listen to me. Just listen to me and you'll be fine. And if you don't, you'll be lost. And he says, look, you, and this back in chapter 4, he had said, Arjun, you and I both have taken many births. The only difference is I remember them all and you've forgotten them completely. So after changing our bodies, we all forget our past deeds. But Krishna, as the super soul, remembers it. So he knows the past, he knows the present, and he knows the future. And he remains the witness of all the activities. Remember we talked about two birds, super soul, witness, and soul, the enjoyer of the fruits. So he's the witness. He said, I am the witness of everything you do. And I'm giving the sanction, which means I'm allowing you to do things. So in a sense, I am directing your activities, if only you would listen to my instructions. Otherwise, you'll get what you deserve and you'll be carried out by some kind of a material body, which is material. But all is still happening under my direction, whether you acknowledge it or not. And also you should understand, as soon as you're put in a particular type of body, you have to work under the spell of that bodily situation. Srila Prabhupada explains that in a very nice example. He says, imagine a person sitting in a racing car, high-speed racing car. And imagine the same person sitting in a very small, slow car. So even though the person is the same, but in the faster car, that person travels faster, much faster than when that person is in the slower car. So same thing. Depending upon what body we have been given, we act according to the body we've been given. Okay, so, and the body is given according to our past desires. So therefore, we're not independent. We should not think of ourselves as independent of Supreme Personality of God and Krishna. Right? Is that point clear? It is our past karmas that determine what kind of body we're going to get. We did not choose our parents. We just got lucky we got human birth. We could have chosen pigs as our parents. We could have chosen dogs or a skunk as our parents. But it's not our choice. We're given a body because of our past karmas, past desires. So therefore, and who decides which karmas will fructify is Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we're totally dependent upon Krishna, even for the body we've got. We are always under Krishna's control. Therefore, our duty is to surrender to Krishna. And Krishna says, if you surrender to me, you will be relieved from all kinds of miseries of this material world. And having been released of all these miseries, at the end of it all, you will be allowed to come to my abode. Okay. Krishna is almost finished now. He's done talking. So he tells Arjun that, the knowledge I have given you is very confidential. But I want you to deliberate on it and then do what you wish to do. In Sanskrit says, Yatechasi tatha karu. Whatever you desire, as you like, you may act. Why is Krishna doing that? After all this, Krishna is saying, listen, I can tell you all I want, but I know that you and all other living entities have that minute independence. Because you are part and parcel of me, all the qualities of me in minute amount. I'm supremely independent, therefore you have minute independence. And he says, I'm not going to interfere with that minute independence. So do as you like, act as you like. However, understand that I have given you the best advice, that is to surrender unto me. Act according to my orders, because that will help you become situated constantly, 24/7 in Krishna consciousness. Surrendering to Krishna is in the best interest of all living entities. It's not for the interest of the Supreme Lord. Like when we surrender to Krishna, it's not that it's good for Krishna, so let me surrender it. We're not doing him a favor. We're doing this because it's good for us. It's in our interest. We can get out of this miserable world by surrendering to Krishna. But the choice is still ours, surrender or not. Surrender to Krishna or surrender to our material desires or Maya. So feel free to deliberate on the subject to the best of your ability and decide what you want to do. But you should know that ultimately you've got to accept the instruction of Krishna. And here Krishna is saying to Arjun, fight. So Arjun must fight. After all this, now Krishna says, I'm going to give you the most confidential instruction because you're my very dear friend. Just surrender to me, which means become my pure devotee and always think of me. So that's what he says. He says, always think of me. Man manama bhavad bhakta. Always think of me. Become my devotee. Worship me. Offer your homage unto me. And if you do that, Arjuna, I guarantee it, you'll come to me without fail. And I'm promising you this because you're my very, very dear friend. Like, how much more can Krishna do? How much more can he say? Making it so crystal clear. So, our life should be so molded that we always have the chance to think of Krishna. We should always act in a way that our daily activities are all in connection with Krishna somehow. We should arrange our life in such a way that throughout the 24 hours, we cannot help but think of Krishna. And Krishna is promising that if you are in such pure Krishna consciousness, you will return to my abode. and you will be engaged in my association face to face and serve me directly. I guarantee this. And this is when he gives the most famous, probably the most famous verse from Bhagavad Gita. Sarvdharmana parityajya mamekam sharanam aham tvam sarvapapebhyo mokshayishyami ma shucha. It says, abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. This is what we were talking about before. Pure devotional service. Krishna is guaranteeing, I will take care of your karmas. I'll remove all your sinful reactions. All you got to do is just surrender to me and abandon all varieties of religion. So what does that mean? All varieties of religion. Well, Krishna's taught through the last 17 chapters, different processes of knowledge, of religion and different types of knowledge. Whether it's knowledge of the Brahman, knowledge of super soul, attachment, detachment, sense control, mind control, mystic yoga, all those kind of things. So now Krishna said, just give them all up. They're no good. Just give them all up. All those processes we talked about, forget it. Forget we ever talked about this. Just surrender.
Yes.
The KISS principle. Keep it simple, stupid. Just surrender. How hard is that to understand? That surrender will save you from all kinds of sinful reactions. Because I, Krishna, personally promise to protect you. I will save you from unnecessarily wasting your time in doing all those different processes, yogas that we talked about. He says very emphatically, do not fear, do not hesitate, do not worry. It's basically encouraging us to give up everything else, all other religious processes. Just surrender. And the prime example of that is the gopis. They didn't worry about the social customs, social traditions, what will people say. Krishna played his flute, they heard it, and they left whatever they were doing. If they were cooking, if they were milking a cow, if they were sitting with the husband or serving the mother-in-law, whatever, they just got up and left. It doesn't matter what you say. I'm going to my Krishna. That is surrender. Okay. Any questions before I finish it up? Like another couple of minutes, I'll finish it.
Yes. I have a quick question about abandon all varieties of religion. So Krishna invented everything, right? Let's just go with that.
Yes.
I mean, that's real.
Yes.
So then he did also invent other religions too then, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like Christianity, Judaism, etc. And so are those there kind of like a test? Like for us to be like, you have all these other options that I created, but you also should just have devotional service towards me. So like, what is the reason that we have all the other religions, and what's our path?
Such a good question. Thank you, Asta. Wonderful question. Those modes of material nature, they screw us up so badly. And everybody has different modes of material nature. Take an extreme example. If you go to a pig, I say, my dear pig, you have a choice. You can eat the stool or you can have this rasgulla I made. Which way do you think the pig will go?
Stool.
Right. That's his mode of material nature.
Nature.
I have met people, and I'm not exaggerating, who say, how can you eat a meal without some meat in it?
Yep.
They will not have a meal without meat in it.
Yep.
I've met people who say, how can you have a day without one drink at least? You try to give them sharbat, you try to give them mango lassi. They don't want it. I have a friend, I'm not making up the story. True story, in Toronto, I have a friend. Another friend, no, I have more than one, I'm talking about one friend. And so another friend bought a house and did a housewarming party and arranged for a yajna, fire sacrifice. This was in the month of June. He invited this other friend of mine to come to housewarming. And that friend said, so what are you doing in that housewarming? He said, oh, I'm doing a yajna and I'll have prasadam. And he literally said, no, I'm not coming. He said, why, are you busy? He said, no, I'm not busy. I just don't want to sit in front of the fire in the month of June, so hot. And he'll feed me some hay and grass, which is vegetarian food. And he'll ask me to drink sharbat, not beer. So I'm not coming. When you have another party, which can have some barbecue chicken and some beer and scotch, then invite me, I'll come. And he said, no, I'm not coming. True story. The point is, they're people of different nature. As many people, as many natures. This is why in the Vedas also, there's a whole section called Karma Kanda, which is perform pious activities so you can go to heavenly kingdom. Or you can come back as a rich person. A lot of people who want to be rich so badly, they will kill, they'll rob, they'll steal to get money. And Krishna is saying, well, don't do that. At least do this pious activity and you get the same thing. Because he says, I know you will not do pure devotional service. I'm trying to ask you to fast, trying to ask you to get up at 3 in the morning, trying to ask you to take a bath every day, cut your hair every day. You won't do it. He says, but I still want you to come to me. He's so compassionate. He says, I'll do whatever I think I can get away with in terms of attracting you to me. So he creates different yogic processes, other religions, and so at least you become attracted. So Christians, Islam, all the Abrahamical religions, they worship the Brahmani Faljas aspect of Krishna. But they're still Krishna. So at least they're not going to worship a Satan or a demon. Just saving them from that. So he said, okay, I'll create, so there will be something you can get attracted to. Similarly, one of the reasons why he has millions and millions of different qualities that he keeps manifesting in the hope that somebody would like one of these and become attracted to it. So some people like the fact he steals. Some people like the fact that he's so attached to his mother. Some people like the fact that he kills all these demons. Some people like the fact that, he has so much fun with the girls. On and on and on. Something will attract you. So therefore, I'll do all these things. And that's his purpose. His purpose is to somehow or the other get you back to him. Therefore, he's doing all this. That's the sole reason. Make sense?
Yeah, I love that answer. That's really beautiful.
Oh, I love your question.
Thank you. But I also think about there is a part of Krishna, there's a type of Krishna that I love the most, right?
There you go, yeah.
It's like when he has his hand on Arjuna explaining the Gita. I like the baby Krishna's cool and cute and stuff, but I love the Krishna and Arjuna when he's Krishna instructing. That's my favorite Krishna.
Sure.
And I'm sure everyone has their own favorite.
Exactly. And that's why people like different names of Krishna. Because of his pastime or qualities or relationships. People have deities at home, and they give them different names. Like our deities at home, Radha Govindji. Our deities at the temple, Radha Chichura Gopinath, and so on and so forth. Right? It's all what attracts you. Krishna, doesn't matter what attracts you, as long as it attracts you. So he did all these things. He works so hard for us, I'm telling you. He really works very hard for us. And we are so ingrate. Oh man, we are totally ungrateful to him. And the day we start appreciating Krishna, we'll become pure devotees. That's all it would take. Okay, excellent question. Thank you for asking. Any other questions? Okay, let me finish in 2 more minutes, then we can open to any other questions. Okay. Now, Krishna's really done now, but he cautions. He says, don't explain this confidential knowledge to those who are not austere, not devotees, or they're envious of Krishna. because they simply will not understand. If they don't understand Krishna, that He is the Supreme God, they may offend Krishna. And then we share in that offense. Similarly, Prabhupada says, don't read commentaries on Bhagavad Gita by non-devotees. There's so many versions of Bhagavad Gita written by non-devotees. Just stay away from them. They'll pollute your consciousness. On the other hand, Krishna also says that the person who explains the secrets of Bhagavad Gita to devotees, pure devotional service is guaranteed. And pure devotional service guarantees journey back to Krishna Loka. And Krishna says that there's no servant more dear to me than the servant who is explaining the secrets of Bhagavad Gita to other devotees. And says, there's nobody more dear to him than this person, nor will there ever be anybody more dear to me than this person. So here's an incentive. Learn Gita and explain to other people, you will also become pure devotee. Krishna is guaranteeing that. Krishna also says that one who is not a devotee but listens with faith and without envy of Krishna becomes free from sinful reactions and attains the planet of the pious people. Therefore, simply by hearing Bhagavad Gita, even a person who doesn't try to be a pure devotee attains the results of righteous activities. We'll discuss this more in the next week's session. Thus, by preaching Gita, a pure devotee of the Lord gives everybody a chance to become free from all sinful reactions and to become a devotee of Krishna. Now, as I said, Krishna is a very good presenter. So before he wraps up, he confirms with Arjuna, hey, did you hear everything I said? Did you pay attention? And do you think your ignorance and your illusion is now gone? And Arjuna said, indeed, my illusion is now gone. And by your mercy, Krishna, I have regained my memory, which is who I am, what is my relationship with you, and who you are. And he says, I'm now firm in my understanding and I'm free from any doubts. Now I'm prepared to act according to your instructions. I will do what you want me to do. Karishe vachanam tava. I'll follow your instructions. So by regaining his memory, what has Krishna remembered? Arjuna remembered that he's an eternal servant of Krishna. He's fully dependent upon Krishna for his existence, and he must execute Krishna's instruction. And his illusion was he was bound by his lust and desires and thought he was the master of this world. But with the illusion gone, he's happily surrendering to Krishna and willing to act according to Krishna's desires. He understands now Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay. How can our illusion be removed? Anybody? How can we remove our illusion?
Just by surrendering.
Well, yeah, but surrendering is not easy.
It's very difficult, but we should try for that.
I'm sorry?
Bona fide Guru ka ashray lekar.
Absolutely. Who said that? Oh, Goody. Yeah, absolutely right. Only by the mercy of the Lord or Lord's pure devotee can we remove our illusion. So we should remember, that's why we should always be looking for a bona fide Guru. Now, the final verse, the last verse in Bhagavad Gita is spoken by Sanjay. Anybody remember who Sanjay was?
Yep.
Who?
Yatra Yogeshwar Krishna. Yatra
No. Who was Sanjay?
Sanjay was the blind guy's friend.
No.
Blind
Blind guy, the Dhritarashtra.
Blind guy's friend.
Okay. So blind guy's friend. He was his friend, his consultant, and his chariot driver.
Chariot driver, yeah.
And he had been given the benediction that he can see whatever is happening in a faraway place.
Yep.
So that's how he was seeing it, not being at the battle. And he said, very interesting, he says, my dear Dhritarashtra, wherever there is Krishna, who is the master of all mystics, and wherever there is Arjun, who is the supreme archer, there will also certainly be opulence, victory, extraordinary power, and morality. And that's my opinion. And that concludes Gita with the message that if Krishna is with you, you will win. If Krishna is not with you, it doesn't matter who you are. You will not win. That concludes Bhagavad Gita. We meet next week to do a summary of everything we've discussed in the last 19 weeks. And I will thank you today, and I'll thank you next week also for tolerating me for all these 19 weeks. You've been a great, great, great audience and students. I totally exceeded all my expectations from you. Again, I'll say this in more detail later on next week, but the quality of your questions have been very impressive, and that has kept me going. It takes me 4 to 5 hours for each hour's presentation. And I've done this very enthusiastically, seeing your enthusiasm, your quality of attendance, and the quality of your questions. I really, really appreciate that. Any questions or comments from today's class?
तो जिनको भगवान ने दर्शन दिया और भगवान ने कहा कि तुम जो चाहो मांग लो, तो उन लोगों ने ये क्यों नहीं मांगा कि हम भगवान मतलब आपके ही लोक में आ जाएं?
She's asking, there are many people who saw Krishna. There are many people Krishna is offering whatever you want. Take it. How come they still don't want to say, I want to come to your abode? It's very simple. The illusion is not gone. They still don't understand Krishna or their relative position or the relationship. They still think they're the master of the world. They still have all these material, lusty desires, and they're happy going after self gratification.
Yes.
So as a matter of fact, some people are afraid to go to his loka, because that means they'll be simply servants. They don't want to be servants. They want to be masters. They would rather struggle in this world because they think they can become rich on their own. They can be happy on their own. That material things is all that's about. So therefore they don't want. They don't want. All of us have that opportunity to ask. Krishna's there in the temple. Krishna's there in our temple. Krishna's everywhere. And he's got his arms open. Just ask me whatever you want. We ask for material things. We chant and we go to Krishna and say, can you give me that promotion? Or my girlfriend keeps saying no, can you ask her to say yes? You know, I bought that ticket. Can you make me win that lottery? All things material. And Prabhupada says that these are trivial things. Krishna can give you so much more, but you ask these trivial things. It's like going to the world's richest person and saying, can you give me 5 cents? How stupid is that? Right? So that's the problem. We are stupid. We are in illusion. We are, maybe I should say I am stupid. This should include everybody.
Everybody is in.
And we are in illusion. We think we are the masters. We think we are the controllers. We think we are the enjoyers, and we are not. And that's the problem. That's why we chant. That's why we perform devotional service. That's why we read Gita and Bhagavatam and we attend these classes, on and on and on. So our illusion can be somehow removed. And then we'll ask the real thing. It's like Dhruva Maharaj. He wanted to ask for the kingdom of Brahma. When he got darshan of Lord Vishnu, his intelligence came back. His illusion got removed. He said, I was asking for broken pieces of glasses, but I got a touchstone in your lotus feet. Why do I want anything else? So until that happens, we keep asking stupid questions and stupid demands. Not good for us. We don't know what's good for us. That's the problem. That's why the first request Arjun made in Bhagavad Gita said, please Krishna, you tell me what's good for me. But I don't know. And that's our situation. We don't know and we don't ask. Guri, did I answer your question?
No.
Okay. Anybody else? By the way, she's my sister in Lucknow, just so everybody knows. My younger sister. As if that was not clear. Anybody else? Okay. So it's 9:35. We should stop. So we'll have the last session next Thursday. Hope you can make it. We will summarize what we have discussed, not necessarily in the same words, maybe in different words. I will have the opportunity to ask any other questions you have. And then we'll figure out if there's anything else we want to do beyond this. Okay?
Thank you so
Once
much.
again,
Prabhu.
thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. You are a great teacher.
Oh, thank you, Mother.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
By my heart, I am saying
Thank you,
that.
Prabhuji.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Prabhu.
Thank you. So hopefully see you next week.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.